Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Comic Book Spotlight. I am your host, Chris, and today we have a very special guest in the house. Let's give it up for our guest, Paul Eza. How you doing, Paul?
Hey, Chris, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
I am so excited. My friend, who also does drawing for my comic book, um, told me about your great Kickstarter, and I was excited, and I wanted to contact you, and I did, and I'm glad that you said yes.
Well, I'm always happy to get contacted in the first place and to come talk. I'm really glad that word of mouth is getting out there too, because I'm excited about the Olympian, which is the next comic coming up out of Acorn.
Yeah, and I'm very excited as well. Let's see. Maybe you can give us a little bit of background on you and how you got started in the comic books.
Absolutely, yeah. I have probably the most boring, straightforward path to writing comics of anyone you've ever talked to. Started out in college as a advertising major and then went into graphic design. That wasn't for me, so I went to law school. Practiced as a lawyer for, oh boy, 15 plus years. Um, Met my wife right out of law school, and she was very into the comics industry as kind of
Mhm.
her side job. So I started going to conventions and meeting a bunch of folks, and I'd already started kind of getting back into comics and reading more comics from by the time I had been in college and law school. And that sort of once a lot of creators started becoming friends, I'm like, I should really read the things they've been making. So I did, and then probably 7, 8 years ago,
Mhm.
is yeah, it was right around the time I turned 40. Um, I was like, I need to do something for me. I used to really enjoy writing, creative writing. I hadn't done it in probably 25 years,
Mhm.
20 years at that point. Um, and I was like, I'm going to give writing comics a shot. And
Mhm.
that's when I started doing it just kind of in my free time. And I wanted to prove to myself that I was going to complete the full story. So it took me, oh God, it took me probably a solid 5 years before I even talked to anybody about it. and then
Oh wow.
and that was the point where I'm like, okay, I'm happy with the story. I'm happy with what I've written. I think it's as good as it's going to get with just me. And that's when I started reaching out to some folks. I talked to the editor from my first comic, Heroes and Zeros, Devin R. Scott, who's a fantastic writer in his own right. He's a great editor. Um, and I just reached out to him through, I think it was through Twitter, and said,
Mhm.
"Hey, you say you're a comic editor. You want to give this a shot?" And we got together for that. He gave me some great tips and great pointers to tighten up that story. Um, and then that's when I started reaching out to artists, and everything else started coming together. Um,
Okay. Um, where did you find your team? I know I've gone on, Fixer, and I think there's another one that I use. I forget the name of it off the top of my head to find great, draw illustrators, colors,
sure.
letters.
So I started um, with again with Heroes and Zeros. A lot of it was through uh, yeah, Twitter. May she rest in peace.
Right.
Um, but at the time, it was just kind of thriving for indie comics creators, and there was a great community there.
Yeah.
Um, and when portfolio day things would pop up, I would kind of go through, and when I started having an idea that that's what I wanted to do with it, I'd just start going through and looking at different profiles and portfolios and saying this artist might be a good fit, this one, and just keeping kind of a list. Um,
Yeah.
and originally I reached out to I think two or three different artists to do some initial character design for that. just to kind of see how they would interpret the characters,
Hmm.
um, and see how they were to work with. Um, and I got some good. A couple of them gave me some uh, pretty good feedback, and it was a tough choice. But the artist I ended up working with, Casey Cavedo, um, he and I just our vision for that just clicked together right away, and he was absolutely the right choice for that one. Um, After that, it was, kind of the same thing. You kind of look at who's doing the work on these independent comics, and that's where I got to read Hinckley Barnes as the letterer. Um, I don't know how often you've looked at some of these comics that come up on Kickstarter. I dove in head first, and part of that was because if I was going to be doing it myself, I wanted to support others who are doing it. But also, it was kind of research. I wanted to see how these campaigns go. What are the things that work, that don't work?
Hmm.
What's the quality of the comics that are coming out from
Yeah.
this?
Yeah,
Um,
that's funny. I did check out Kickstarter when I was doing my own comic book and looking for illustrators and letterers and colorists. And I got real lucky. I got to do my comic um, concept designs to start it out. I got Alex Sanchez. I got really lucky.
okay,
And he was on a YouTube 3POA. He's friends with Bobby Valla of Valaverse.
okay,
And I don't know if you're familiar with Bobby Valla. He used to be a figure sculptor for Hasbro,
okay.
and then they released him during the pandemic,
Oh,
time, and he went off to do his own figures, which been very successful. So he's good friends with Alex, and they were both um, wanting to be comic book artists, and Bobby went in a different direction. So very, very fortunate to have people to get lucky to have people that actually been in the business for a long time. So
yeah, and that was one of the things that I was fortunate to have as well. But I also didn't want to feel like I was taking advantage of people.
right,
And like I say, some of the folks that my I become friends with, either through my wife or just now through being at so many conventions and meeting myself.
right.
Um, I didn't want to come up to somebody who's just won an Eisner Award, like, hey, do you want to draw my first comic for me? Like, it just kind of felt, it would have felt like I was trying to take advantage of that person. Like, not that they would have felt that way necessarily,
Right,
um, but no, you've got bigger things to work on. Let me do this, and let me at least prove to myself that I'm going to do it and do it well.
right.
And I didn't feel as bad when it came time to ask for, say, a cover, or um,
Mhm.
and I've talked about before, I was able to, as a stretch goal for Heroes and Zeros on Kickstarter, we were able to get Gail Simone to do a 2-page bonus story in the back of the book,
Yeah,
which was just got mind blowing that she would even consider it. But she was just she is just an amazing person, and was just like, of course I'll do it. Why not?
yeah, yeah. No, I felt the same way when I contact Alex, but he's like, he told me, he goes, I would rather work with people that are just starting out because um, they have interesting ideas and he likes new stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
when I pitched it to him, he was like, oh, yeah, I'll do it. But, um, I'm going to charge you regular price. And I said, hey, that's not a problem. It's your time. It's your income that's coming in. You got to support your family.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to pay whatever you ask me to pay, you know. And he was very gracious because he didn't charge me a fee that he would normally charge for the bigger companies, you know.
Right.
But I still was nervous asking him to do it, but I'm glad he did because it gave a structure for my the guy that I brought in from Rome to create, from his character designs to do the interior pages of my comic book. So
Right.
it was great. And I had Alex on my podcast not just a while ago, I believe in January 20 something. So
Okay. So recent.
recent. And I just
Yeah.
had Doug Wagner
Right.
uh, Monday. So he's been
Okay.
on my show twice. So
All right, man. You're keeping busy over here.
he's very gracious. And then in February, I will be having Erica Schultz of
Man, you're
Writer.
squeezing me in between all of this. That's I'm flattered.
No, I like your comic, and I'll tell you why. When I looked at the Heroes and Zeros, I was like, this guy gets it. He knows what he's doing. You know, I see good writing when I open a comic. I can tell if it's good writing or not. You know, once I'm looking at the panels and everything. And people was like, well, how can you tell from the story? And I said, because once you get the dialogue in there, if it flows nicely, you know the writer has taken the time to write something well enough that their drawers are conveying it on the panels that they're drawing for the comic. So no, I
Well,
like your
I appreciate that. I wish I could tell you that that was all me, but no. Like I am still new at this, and I'm aware of my limitations, and that I still have a ton to learn.
yeah.
But that's one of the reasons I try and partner with people who know what they're doing. And one of the things I look for, one of the first lessons about comics in general that I learned
Hmm.
is you can be the greatest artist in the world. You can be able to draw something that would hang in the Louvre,
Right.
but that's a different skill from visual storytelling.
Right.
And not that, and look, Casey's an amazing artist. Dee is an amazing artist. They can both draw the hell out of pretty much anything.
Right.
But more so than that, they are both phenomenal visual storytellers.
Okay.
And when I send a script, it's not a, from what I understand of the difference between DC and Marvel methods,
Hmm.
it's more close to the DC. I try and describe what I want to see.
Right.
But on both of these stories, I'll get pages back and they're like, hey, this didn't quite work. I'm going to do it. I feel like it's better if we do it this way. Let's move this around. Let's flip this around this way. Um, and probably 90% of the time when they make a suggestion like that,
Yeah.
I look at it, I'm like, yep, you're right, that's better. And I think that's the beauty of the collaboration,
Yeah.
because we don't always know what
Right.
our weaknesses are going to be, what our blind spots are going to be to these things. They're
Yeah.
the experts. I would be an idiot not to listen to the people who have been doing this for as long as they have and as well as they have, when they have a
Absolutely.
suggestion to make it
Yeah.
look better. And
Absolutely.
then
Yeah.
more often than not, I say, okay, we can move that around. You're right. It looks better. I'm just going to tweak the dialogue here
Mhm.
and make it fit a little bit better. And I think that's where you get the great comics coming out, is that kind of collaboration and partnership between the different skill sets.
Right. Right. And I agree with you. I mean, I've picked the brains of Doug Wagner many times, and I'm just like, am I on the right track? And he's like, yeah, your stuff is pretty good. I'm still learning as well. I mean, yes, I've written, over the years many, 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 many times, but to do a comic book, I had to learn how to do what they call a style. When you're writing a comic book, there's a style to it, and I had to learn the formula to that. And once you know your formula, it's so easy to write. And
Yeah, the
I agree
writing's the
with
fun part.
yeah, that's the fun part. The hard part is getting it together. But let's get into what we're here about, and that is the Kickstarter.
Yes.
Let's see. Let me get it all set up here. Screen share. Yes. Um, Let me know when you see it.
I got it. Oh, love that.
Yeah. It's there on the screen though. I,
Yep, it
I'm get,
is.
I'm
Yep.
getting a delay, so I don't
Okay.
know if it's up there or not.
I see the Parthenon. I see the Acorn Comics logo.
Oh, awesome. Okay, okay, cool, cool, cool. Now I think I'm seeing it. There we go. Okay. I hate the delay sometimes with these live streams, but that's okay. Here it is, special editions, comic book spotlight with you, Paul. And
All right.
I had to change the background like several times because I wasn't happy.
I think came out great.
Yeah, I thought, at first it was just the comic book spotlight background, and I was like, nah, we gotta make it more special. So I thought we start with this. You know this comic book.
I know this one well. Yes. Uh,
Heroes and Zeros, issue 1, published September 21st, 2022. I believe this is cover A, correct?
that is the main cover that we had through the Kickstarter, and we're also uh, when we do another print run, that's going to be the main cover on the print run.
Awesome. And the cover artist was Casey. What was the last name?
Uh,
Cuervo?
I've always pronounced it Quevedo. He's never corrected me, so I hope that's right.
Okay.
Uh,
And and the color is Mesha.
Maya, yeah, Maya
Uh,
Opasek.
okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't want to make their.
Again, I could be mispronouncing her name as well, but she's never corrected me, so I'm
Oh,
hopefully getting that right.
and the coloring on this is so great. I just love it.
She's
Uh,
amazing, yeah.
it's stunning, and I love the Acorn logo. Of course, he changed it over the years. So, um, was this the first logo that you used for Acorn?
Well, that is the. I mean, we intentionally have it so you can change the coloring on it,
Okay.
um, and that's to match whatever the theme is on the particular cover. So yeah, this is the logo, the main logo. The one that you had up on the first slide is the primary
Okay.
coloring of the logo, just for general use. But when it goes onto a comic book, we can kind of change that around a little bit
Yes.
uh, to match.
And can you tell us a little bit about Heroes and Zeros, so people who are not familiar with it?
Absolutely. So this is the first comic book that I wrote. It's going to be a 3-part series, but they're double-size issues. So this one was 46 pages of main story. The Kickstarter edition had the 2-page bonus story by Gail Simone with art by Walter Giovanni and colors by Laura Martin. Can't forget the letters by Micah Myers. Um, and this one is a futuristic murder mystery, and it's sort of I've pitched it before as X-Men meets Scooby-Doo.
Oh,
So it's it has a bit of a lighthearted. I want my comics, generally speaking, to be accessible to a younger audience, not necessarily written with a younger audience in mind, but I want it to be accessible. So I'm not going too far with graphic violence or sex or nudity or anything like that. Um, but it's set in a world several hundred years in the future where you kind of take the idea of X-Men where superpowers come from human evolution, and humanity has continued to evolve to the point where most people now have at least one superpower. And how does society change when that happens? Well, are you going to have just little old me as a delivery person, or are you going to have somebody with super speed as a delivery person?
right,
You kind of have jobs that fit what your ability is. Um, and the ones who have no ability, and there's still a number of them left, are known as zeros,
right.
and they're sort of the dregs of society. So they're kind of at the bottom. Everybody looks at them. What good are you? What can you do that someone with an ability can't do better? Um, and at the very beginning of the story, the leader of the local government. The governments, of course, have changed around a bit too. The leading council, who's the most powerful super being in the world, is murdered.
Oh wow.
And this group of zeros, the ones featured on the cover, um, are approached by one of their friends who does have an ability, the ability to fly, um, and are basically recruited to try and solve this murder. So, they've said that somebody's being framed for it. Um, we need you to solve this murder, clear his name. And as they go further into it, they discover the conspiracy goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's, we kind of ended the first one. The first book ends on a bit of a action sequence. Um, you get a bit of a battle. The second book is going to start with a bit of an action sequence. It's going to be fantastic. I'm really excited for that one. That should be coming around August or September. We're still working out the schedule for that one, but we're expecting it later this year to hit Kickstarter, um, after we get all the fulfillment done for the Olympian.
Yeah, that is awesome. And we got some people just come in the chat.
Hey,
We've got
everybody. Thanks for coming in.
Zazel. Good evening from Australia.
Wow. All right. Good evening from Florida. Or good morning from Florida, I guess.
And Figure Fight Club. What's up, guys?
Hey, not too much, man. What's up with you?
Let's get into the next slide here. And this one is a cover B of the same issue, Heroes and Zeros, but this is your Scooby Doo homage.
Yes.
Cover,
Again, so I'd been kind of going with the Scooby Doo theme when I was pitching it and promoting it.
yeah.
Um, and of course, there is a dog in there as well. It's a old English sheepdog named after my first dog, Sherlock. Um, so that was my childhood dog in there, basically.
Oh, nice.
um, and this one was done by Dee Fish, who's the artist on the Olympian. And again, I've known Dee for years, and she's the one that designed the Acorn Comics logo as well. Helped a bunch with the layouts for the covers. Um, and I said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing this?" And probably within a couple hours, we had the basic layout of this one done. Um, and I think it just, her style just complements this perfectly. It comes in with just that little bit of humor, and irreverence, and I just absolutely adore this one, how it came together.
Yeah, when I went to your website, I saw a lot of the people that you use their photos, and I was just like, okay, this is really good. You get to when it's on your website, you're personalizing. Letting people know who's doing the actual work with the photos. So
Yeah, and look, I mean, the truth of it is too, we're not, as publishers go. I mean, there's micro publishers. We're probably more subatomic at this point.
right,
Um, I'm not making enough comics for these folks to make a living off of just working on my stuff. So the very least I can do is help promote them and their other work as well, because uh, first and foremost, I'm a big fan of every single person I've worked with. I've been
right.
fortunate to work with some really talented, uh, and just good people and wonderful people to work with.
Yep, and I agree with you. And we're gonna go to the next slide.
Right? All
Same
right.
issue, but different
Same
cover.
issue. This was, and that's the one of the things that I'd picked up on Kickstarter, and I didn't know before how much of an effect it had was, most of these campaigns you have at least one or two variant covers you can choose from,
Yes.
and so I wanted to do that, and um, something that I'm going to keep trying to do with all of my campaigns is to have one cover at least that is done by a big name.
Yeah.
And so this one, Tom Rainey, I'm sure everybody knows Tom Rainey. He's an amazing artist. Worked on X-Men for a while. Has worked on so much stuff over the years. I think very recently he was on Cyborg with DC. Um, but it was just one of my favorites and just an absolute gem of a human being. Um, and again, I'd reached out to him and he jumped in to do this. And this shows it's sort of a take on one of the scenes that from the first issue where we first meet this antagonist, Officer Jacobs, as he's busting through a window at the bar as the Zeros are talking about, are we actually going to try and solve the murder of somebody that we never knew, and he busts through the window chasing the guy that whose name they're trying to clear. So of course his ability is the unbreakable skin, and so he has kind of a penchant for breaking through windows and doors and things like that because he can.
Yeah, yeah, and I you picked a great, I would say, artist that is well known to do a cover C variant for your comic. To get Tom Rainey, wow! I mean, that's impressive.
No, I mean, and again, I was excited when he said yes. I was even more excited. I'll tell you, this is one of the because, as you know, I'm sure most artists work primarily digitally now.
Yeah,
So it's getting harder and harder to find original art if that's a thing that you enjoy and like to collect.
right.
Um, so we were at Heroes Con last year, and this was of course after the Kickstarter and after everything had come out. And I think we were in the process of getting everything printed. Um, and I saw Tom, and he gifted me the original art from this cover,
Oh wow.
and I was just again just Tom, if you're watching, thank you again. I can't say thank you enough. This was such an honor to have you work on it, and that's now of course hanging in a place of honor in our house.
Hmm. Man, to have Tom Rainey. I mean, I had Alex Sanchez on my
Hmm.
show, and to have Tom Rainey, X Men. Come on, X Men. We're
Yeah,
talking X Men.
yeah.
It's like it's up there with Chris Claremont and
No,
God.
Tom, and again, Tom is he's one of those folks that I met just starting to go to conventions, and I've known for a while. Um, but I mean, and look, I mean, just look at that cover, man. He
It's,
absolutely destroyed it.
yeah, he nailed it. It's just like you
Yep.
look at it and you go, when you think Kickstarter, you think, oh, it's going to look hokey looking, and people are probably thinking, you know, these Kickstarter indie comics are just low budget, but this is well done, well put together, and I can see that you have a passion for it. So
Well, and that's absolutely what it is. And once I started writing again, like the bug just bit me,
yeah,
and it's one of those things that I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I love it. I would eventually love to be at a point where I'm, at least breaking even off of it.
you're right.
So you work to that. You got to build the audience. You got to get people,
Yes.
repeat customers come in, get people. And by the way, for anybody watching, you can actually buy the Kickstarter versions on our website. So only the physical copies. We don't have the Kickstarter version of the digital anymore. We have the standard digital. The physical versions include you can get a copy of Tom's cover, you can get a copy of Dee's cover, get a copy of Casey's cover,
Yeah.
and they all include the bonus story by Gail and Walter.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to when I have time. I'm gonna have to go on your site and get a cover. You know.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Our next slide is going into what we're here for, the Kickstarter.
Yes. Oh man, I'm so excited for this one.
I am excited as well because look at this. It's just when you look at it, it's so just the text of it is amazing, and I like it, and it gets me excited. So Comic Kickstarter for 2025. It's when will the date of the actual Kickstarter start?
It launches on March 11th.
March 11. People, get out
Yep.
there.
And if you're going to forget, go on to the Kickstarter site. I actually have a redirect website. So if you just go to olympiancomic.com, it'll take you right there. Sign up for pre-launch notifications, and then as soon as it launches, you get the email and it comes in, and you'll know it's time.
Yeah. And once again, you're paired with D-Fish
Yes.
for this comic book and the Olympian. So give us a little breakdown. Don't give us too much because I think we have something that we might be teasing people with in the chat.
All right. So this is very basically. Again, you try and when I'm trying to pitch these, I'm trying to think of things that people might be somewhat familiar with, and of course we're not we're not plagiarizing anything, but drawing themes and drawing certain aspects. And I kind of view this one as Shazam meets Radiant Black, but set in a small town.
Okay.
And so that's the general theme. It's a young man from a small town that is very loosely based on the town I went to high school in, that discovers a talisman that grants him the powers of the Greek gods. And
Awesome.
that's the setup. So if you got something to play, I don't know if you're ready to show that or if you want to talk about it a little bit more first.
We're going to show a little bit more imagery to
Okay.
get them ready for the teaser trailer, but here is something I had in mind.
All right. So the one on all the way to the side, the more purple one, that is
Right.
actually for Heroes and Zeros 2.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. But that's
my
going to be
fault.
the main cover for Heroes and Zeros 2.
Yeah.
The first image is the main cover for the Olympian. And that, I love that. Dee drew that, colored by Ibrahim Aideen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a colorist. I actually discovered through some of the other Kickstarters, and a comic that my friend Devin R. Scott had put out called Magni the Mighty, which is his take on the sons of Thor after Ragnarok, and that's that story, and follows those two brothers. And the colorist Ibrahim was the colorist he used on that, and I just absolutely loved what he did, and I thought it would be perfect for this one as well. And again, he's done just a great job with it.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the medallion, or is it a coin?
Sure. No, that is the talisman. That's the thing that our protagonist discovers. It's up in his grandparents' attic as he's cleaning out the attic for them, and we'll obviously learn more about that talisman as the series goes on. But what we see is immediately once he discovers it and decides he's going to keep that as sort of a family heirloom, it starts glowing, and then as he finds himself in a bit of distress, again, you'll kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
In a few minutes when we go through the trailer, but
yeah, absolutely. Dana Geek has just shown up, my good friend.
Hey,
comic book enthusiast.
Good morning.
Dana Geek, you should check this one out. This Kickstarter starts, we said March, right?
March 11th, yes.
March 11th. Definitely check this out. Even check out his website, which I believe I have posted on the link below on this live stream.
All right.
And thanks for sending me that information, Paul. I really appreciate it. Let's get into the teaser trailer, people.
Yes.
I'm excited. The Olympian Kickstarter teaser trailer. Let's listen.
Hey, yeah, you. Let me tell you about my grandson.
That's him right there. No, not that guy. This guy. Name's Vasilis. Great kid. I basically took over running the family restaurant after I got sick. And there he is helping his Yaya Helena pack up the attic after I passed on. You see that amulet there? The one Vasilis just found? Helena and I brought that back from Greece after our honeymoon. It had been in her family for ages, but she insisted that we keep it hidden. I never knew why, but she was determined, so up to the attic it went. After a while, we just forgot about it. Clearly, it did not forget about our family. Now that Vasilis has it, it couldn't have chosen anyone better. I just hope he's ready for what's coming.
And there it is. The great teaser trailer for the Olympian.
Yeah, and I'm continually amazed that I put these things together and they don't completely suck.
No, when I saw it, I thought a professional did it. I was like, wow, that looks really good, because I tried to do teaser trailer for mine just to see what it would look like. And I looked at it and I went, that looks like crap.
I mean, the imagery, of course, it looks great because we got great art.
Yeah.
So that's step one, is you get the great art and you just put it on the screen and let the people see it. It's the rest of it that and I've seen a few trailers. I'm not sure if I'm doing it well or doing it badly, but I'm happy with it, and hopefully people are enjoying it and it gets them interested in the comic.
No, and the Den of Geek says I'll be sure to check it out and back it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that.
That is so cool, because I'm with a whole bunch of guys that are in a great community called the Legends Club, and basically we just like supporting each other, and it's just great that we can support an indie comic like yourself and show people that you don't have to go to a big major label to put out a comic book. You can do it on your own, with a lot of hard work, and put out just as good as quality as the big names out there.
Oh, and that's, look, something that I've learned over the years, and I did as much research as I could when I started doing this. I did, Gail Simone did comic book school years ago, but it's all up online. You can go get it for free. It's a great primer if someone's trying to write. But it's all about making sure you take the time and just do it the right way, because you're going to get stories out there that aren't going to get noticed by the big publishers. You're going to get artists and writers that aren't going to get noticed by the big publishers for one reason or another. There's just not enough publishing to go around.
Right.
But as long as you're willing to take the time and do it right and find somebody to collaborate, assuming you're not one of those rare birds that can do literally everything of it yourself. Find somebody to work with that you can afford to pay. Always pay your artists. Always pay your letterers and colorists. That's one thing. I don't negotiate prices with anybody. I say, what is your rate? If it's too much, then I'll say, I'll work with you on another project down the line. But you find somebody that you can afford that does great work, and they're out there. It all comes together. You just got to take the time, and that's also the benefit of doing it this way, is I'm not on a deadline.
Right.
I don't have a publication schedule where I got to get one of these out every month. I can take my time and get it to the point that I am absolutely as happy with it as I can possibly be, before it comes out. So that is a benefit. The downside, of course, is you might have to wait for issue 2.
Right.
and you hope to keep the audience interested in the meantime, so they'll come back for issue 2.
Right.
And that's sort of where we're going with it. And it's one of the reasons we did plan to do the Olympian before we did issue 2 of Heroes and Zeros, because that's a longer comic. It's going to take Casey longer to draw. It's going to take me longer to find the money to pay for it. But since this one was a shorter comic, it was easier to kind of fit that in and get it ready so that we'd have something to launch early this year and still have a second issue of Heroes and Zeros coming later in the year.
Yes. Let's see. Danny Gate says, I love the mythology stories. New takes on stories are always welcome in my collection.
Oh, it's great, man. And I hope you enjoy it. And look, there's small town, there's mythology, there's a minotaur. What could go wrong?
Okay, I have a question. Where do you see Acorn Comics down the line in 5 years?
Hopefully by 5 years, I've got a schedule planned that does actually go out. I think it goes out that far. Um, excuse me, because I've got a couple other projects that haven't even gotten into character design yet.
Right.
But it's a lot quicker to write something than it is to create it. So my hope is we keep ramping up to get to the point where we're putting out, 3, maybe 4 every year by then. I will have completed Heroes and Zeros by then, and there is a plan to put out a collected deluxe version once the entire story arc is done. That's one that we're going to leave it at a point where there's room to write other stories, but it absolutely completes the story in itself. And we'll see where we go with that one. We should have the first arc of the Olympian out by then as well. It's going to be 5 issues. And we should have that one complete and done by then. There's a couple other stories I'm working on that I do hope to put out 1 or 2 more over that period and get a couple more series going. And like I said, it'd be great to build enough of an audience that it's kind of self-sustaining. I'd love to be able to grow to the point where we can bring in other creators and have other people telling their stories with us. But again, I'm committed to doing this the right way. Like it's one thing, right? The way I look at it right now, because we're not making money off it at this point because it's not cheap. And paying artists is not cheap, and it shouldn't be cheap because their skills are valuable. But it's one thing where I'd like to get to the point where it is breaking even or even making some money off that before I start expanding to anybody else, because I never want to ask anybody to do something for free. And that's sort of, if there's room to grow, we'll grow. If not, I'm just going to keep making my comics. And I'm probably not spending more on this than a lot of guys spend on golf in a year. So I don't golf. I do this instead.
That's awesome. Now, with the Kickstarter, are we getting all 5 issues at once, or is it going to be gradually?
This is issue 1 coming out this year.
Okay.
And then I say we're going to hope to do 1 or 2 more per year, depending on everybody's schedule, depending on the finances. And we'll, like I said, hey guys, the better this Kickstarter does, the faster you can get issue 2. So spread the word, pass it on to everybody, get the word out, and we'll hopefully blow past this Kickstarter goal and have enough money to really jump in on issue 2 quickly.
Yeah.
I am, by the way, I know I mentioned I'm trying to get a big name for each cover, for a variant cover.
Yeah.
I can't announce it yet. I have to finalize something I'm hoping to finalize, but there is one lined up for the Olympian. I'm going to see the artist at MegaCon and hopefully finalize everything so we can make the announcement.
I'm I'm excited to find out who that artist is going to be.
I'm excited to announce it. It's going to be it's one of my favorite current artists. It's just been absolutely blowing up over the last couple of years.
Okay. So, you told me back when we're backstage a little bit about yourself, and when your wife was actually a big comic book fan, or I should say more than a comic book fan. Would you say she's a comic book enthusiast?
Oh, she is a enthusiast. She's an expert. She actually by day she's a vascular neurologist. So if you have a stroke in Jacksonville, she'd likely be treating you, or there's a better than even chance. Um, but she's been in comics since she was a teenager. She started going. She lived in Orlando and started going to MegaCon when it was still in a hotel. Um, and when she was there, she's just the type of person who will start talking to people, and she has no fear about approaching any of the creators that were there, and she just start talking with them. And over the years, she began working at MegaCon, and she worked there for MegaCon for ooh, probably over 20 years. Um, including after they were bought by Fan Expo, and she worked a lot of the different Fan Expo shows as one of the comics coordinators. And then more recently, she's working with Comic Sketch Art.
Oh wow!
I don't know if you're familiar with that group, but they represent a lot of the biggest name artists and writers out there for convention appearances.
Oh no, I'm
Um,
not aware of them, but you educated me, so appreciate it.
right. Yeah. So there's a couple of agencies for the creators that don't want to go solo and handle it all themselves. There's really two big agencies, but it's just Comic Sketch Art and then Essential Sequential is the other one, that have probably the majority of the bigger name creators out there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I've been having a hard time trying to get Larry Hama to come on my show.
okay.
Uh,
I
his uh, his
Yeah.
agent's been giving me the runaround.
Oh no.
So
Well, if I know the agent, I'll put in a good word.
I appreciate it. And if Larry is watching the stream, uh, please message me because I did message him on his Facebook page, and I'm hoping to get him on here soon because I would really like to have a legend like that
Oh, of course, yeah.
on my YouTube channel. But this is about you, and what comic books do you enjoy buying?
Oh man. Um, so I've gone more digital recently only because I have a 5-year old. And so the times that I am able to read comics are a little bit more scattered. And it's more likely I'll be able to grab my iPad and pull it up than grab an actual physical comic and sit down with good lighting and get through it.
Yeah,
Um, I'm still a big fan of Kickstarters. I've been supporting a lot of different ones, and that's something that uh, I've been putting up on my own social media. Is basically every week I try and highlight, 3 or 4 comics that are funding on Kickstarter. At the time, it's usually a 2-minute just run through. Here they are. Here's the basic thing, and I put all the information in the comments. Um, but both to support the community and because I really enjoy these, and from a selfish perspective, I want to see them get funded because I want these comics. Um, but
yeah,
aside from that, it's if we're looking at some of uh, the bigger ones, I am a big fan of Radiant Black, and I've followed that one. I haven't kept up with all the different Radiants that have been out there. I've tried. Um, you know, the Tom King Wonder Woman run recently has been amazing. Uh, a big fan of both of the Toms. King and Taylor are both creators that I'll generally follow, and at least anytime they're on a new series, I'll at least read the first one and see if it's see if it's my speed. But I've enjoyed most of what those two guys have written. Um, Obviously anything Gail Simone writes is worth picking up,
Mm.
and a ton of others. I know I'm leaving a bunch of people out here, but um, that's usually what I'll do is I'll just kind of follow the creators more so than the titles.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, I really like Emma Kubert. I don't know if you're aware of her
Oh yeah,
stuff,
no,
and
Emma's fantastic.
yeah, and I really like her. I believe it's Stoneheart.
Okay, I
Um,
haven't read that one, but
oh, you have to. It's like if you like you're putting out the Olympian. If you like the Olympian, you will like Stoneheart. I mean, has her personality, but it's got a lot of I would say medieval kind of, you know, Robin Hood esque
okay.
quality to it, but it's her own lore. And when you open up the comic book, uh, on the inside of the flap, she has this beautiful map of her lore of the
Oh wow,
realm.
okay.
And it's so beautiful. I was just like, that's incredible. And that's another person I'm trying to get on my show as well, is Emma Kubert. Because I love her father's work that he did in Batman.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I'm a big Batman fan, so grew up with watching Batman all the time. Um,
The question is which Batman?
well, if we're talking TV, it's Adam West.
Okay.
If we're talking movies, Michael Keaton. I know that's the not the cool thing. Everybody likes, Val Kilmer or
I
Bale.
enjoyed most of them. I kind of ignore the fact that that George Clooney one. Um,
Oh yeah,
I pretend that one didn't exist, but otherwise, I've enjoyed all of the iterations. They're different. They each do something. They each take a different approach to it, which is great. You look at some of these old comics that have been around, the Batman, Superman,
yeah,
and one of the things I laugh at. I try not to scoff at, but I laugh at is when people complain about the TV shows or movies not being comics accurate. I'm like, okay, so which version? Which version of that comic over the last 80 years is this inaccurate to?
right,
It's, because for the most part, most of these stories come from one of those, or at least inspired by some, and they've had such different tones and such different uh, approaches over the years. Um, you can get a silly Batman story, you can get a dark Batman story. It's all over the place.
yeah. I recently saw a documentary on Amazon. The guy that actually got Batman started for movies, and
Oh wow.
he was telling me he's like, um, when he decided that they wanted to go with I forget the director's name, the first Batman,
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton. When he gave the idea of Tim Burton to the studio, everybody was like, "Oh no, not Tim Burton. We're not going to have Tim Burton do Batman." And the guy was who had I guess not necessarily the IP, but I guess he had the rights to the movies and a Batman, and he's like, "Yeah, I want Tim Burton to do the movie," and he had to fight uh, real hard to get him to be the director
Wow.
because nobody wanted him. They were like, "How about George Lucas? How about Steven Spielberg? All these big names," and that were already established, and they didn't think Tim Burton could do uh, a Batman's, serious. kind of comic book feel for the movies, to
Right.
bring out something. And the thing is hard is you when you're trying to take a comic and adapt it to a movie, it's totally different. It's like you can't do exactly what was in the comic. You can have a foundation for it, but
Right.
to do the actual story from a comic book, it's kind of hard.
Oh,
And
very hard. Yeah.
it's
Um,
go ahead.
and no, and you're absolutely right. It's very difficult to do that, um, as we've seen from many yeah, subpar, I guess, comic book movies over the years.
Yeah,
But for me, if you at least you got to number one just get the spirit of the character right.
yeah,
And Tim Burton was great for that. And I'll be the first to admit I was not a fan of the original Michael Keaton casting
right,
because in my mind, and of course, I wasn't, I was old enough to have opinions at that point. I wasn't, you know, old enough to have a lot of perspective, but
right.
opinions, yes.
Yes.
And but to me, I was like, okay, I know it's a movie,
Hmm.
and there's suspension of disbelief. And Michael Keaton played the role of Bruce Wayne great. But I was like, but Michael Keaton can't kick anybody's ass.
Right.
And why are you going to have a Batman who, like, yeah, I mean, in the suit he looks buff, but we all know what he looks like. That guy can't kick somebody's butt.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing with this? But he was great. The movies came out phenomenal.
Yeah. And everybody, I think there were some things online when social media wasn't as big as it is today, and they were putting Mr. Mom in like the Batman, you know, with
Right? Yeah, yeah.
with the baby. Remember
Uh huh.
the Mr. Mom when he did Mr. Mom, um, and they were making fun of him. They go, "Do you want Mr. Mom to be doing Batman?" And
Right.
I thought it was kind of funny, because he's kind of poking at Michael Keaton, but Michael Keaton, they don't understand that guy is a great actor, and
He really is, and he did a great job with the role.
yeah,
Like I said, I enjoyed the Val Kilmer movie as well. I thought that was, and that was one where I thought the casting of the villains at least was, I would have loved to see Billy D. Williams play Two Face, but
oh yeah,
I don't know the mechanics of how that didn't happen. But
yeah. I
um,
think they something about his agent because I was watching a documentary and Billy D. Williams, I guess, agent rubbed the the guy that put the company that puts out Batman, and basically didn't like his Billy D. Williams agent.
oh
So
boy, okay,
that's where that kind of happened. And Billy D. Williams is like, I wanted to play Two Face so badly. And I thought it was going to happen with the second movie. And then when it didn't happen, I kept on thinking, well, maybe with this new director, they're going to call me.
mm-hmm.
Never happened
Yeah,
because
it's a shame,
it seems like the studio has their idea of who they want to play a certain character.
right? And that's not a knock on Tommy Lee Jones either.
No,
He,
no,
he did he did he did great with it. Um, and of course, at the time, there was nobody better for the Riddler than Jim Carrey.
oh yeah.
But
Some people disagree, but I'm like, yeah, he was made to do the Riddler. It was very funny, and it brought a lot of the Riddler qualities.
and again, a very old school Riddler,
Yeah,
which is more the vibe of those movies to begin with.
yeah, I love the little clues that he left every time he committed a crime. He leave the little kind of
Yeah,
guess what this is all about. I just love the little Riddler kind of. I guess you would call them, I don't know, questions or kind of you gotta kind of guess what he's
li, little riddles.
little
Yeah,
riddles. That's there you go, little riddles. Sorry, it's early in the morning and my head is not fully awake.
That's okay, man. Hey, I appreciate you hopping on with this time difference,
Oh
man.
no,
That's
no, I'm happy to do it. I mean, it's a little. I got up early and I was just like, I'm ready for this stream. You know, I'm excited about your project, and I think everybody should be excited and to go out there for when it starts March 11th. So check out his website. It's in the links below. I got all his social media. Um, let's see what else questions I have for you. If you could work with someone in the big comic book world to write along with, who would it be?
you mean as far as like an artist or anybody?
Anybody.
Just
Yeah.
I would look. I would have to say, and again, this is going into you know skill number one, but also um, a friend of mine is I'd love to get a chance to do something with Mitch
Yeah.
Garrett's. Um, I mean, number one, I don't know how many Eisners the guy's won at this point, but there's several of them, um, and and he's just a fantastic guy, and I think I'd have a great time doing the work with
Yeah.
him. So
I know you can't talk about your other projects, but what what do you think you'll be doing? Do you think you'll be doing any horror in the future, or
I don't know that I will go into horror. I've got a little 3-pager up on the website for free. That's just something that I had put together with Lane Lloyd, who's again another just fantastic creator who has a very distinctive style. And that was when I had this little script that I had written up, I was like, it's a Lane Lloyd script. I gotta convince Lane to do this, and not somebody that I knew particularly well, somebody I've interacted with on social media, but never actually met in person. But uh, they were kind enough to jump in and get that one knocked out. It's called Intrusion. It's up under the Seedlings link on our comics page, which is what I'm using for short comics and previews. Um, but I've some of the projects that I've got kind of in the works. There's a couple that lean more into the sci-fi realm, um, and one that I've started on a bit. Uh, that is, I'm trying to make it a comedy, an actual, and one of the comics that got me that started my rereading of comics is The Tick, the original
yeah,
series from Ben Edlund, um, and I absolutely adore that to this day. And the original cartoon series as well was just brilliant. Um, and so that's kind of my driving force is I kind of wanted to do my own version of that, so just a silly, irreverent, comedic story. Um, and then, like I say, some sci-fi stuff that's in there. I can't say I won't go into some kind of horror realm or suspense or something like that. Um, and I do have an idea um, for another superhero comic, but it's in the Heroes and Zeros
okay,
universe. So in the very opening of that story, um, you sort of see the flashbacks to the original superhero team, the very first ones that came publicly that people were aware of. And so I kind of want to do a story, probably just a one shot centered around that superhero team, and a flashback to them and some of the silly villains that they have back in the day.
absolutely. And would you say your comics are for everybody? Or
I believe so. Yeah, that's my goal. Again, is I want them to be accessible to children, not necessarily written for kids. Um, Okay, we're still with me. I just got a message that said connection lost, but I think
No,
we're
you're
still
good.
there. All right. Yeah, like I don't want to put too much like R-rated stuff in there. You know, you might see a curse word here and there, and of course some battles and some fights and things like that. But it's not going to get too gory. It's not going to get too explicit with anything.
Yeah,
Um, at least not for now. Who knows? I'm
yeah,
not going to put restraints on myself if I get a great idea in the future that really lends itself to a more adult audience. I'm not saying I won't do it, but for now,
yeah.
you
I
know,
was just
it's a
trying.
broad audience.
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure because I want people to come out and support your Kickstarter. So if it's more for everybody, then parents are more likely to want to back this for their children.
Sure.
Maybe they have older kids in their family, so they would love to
Yeah,
have this comic book.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, definitely teenage. It's fine for teenagers, no problem with that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't know that younger kids would really get it.
right. Oh, yeah,
So, but I don't think there's anything particularly inappropriate either.
right. Do you ever think you'll do a comic where it's more for younger children?
Possibly. There's a few ideas I've had floating around that I think could lend themselves to that.
Yeah, because I think we don't have enough. I know back in the day when I was growing up, we had Archie and Richie Rich and Popeye and all those kind of comic books and Peanuts comic book
Sure.
strips that were more for children. And I think we need to get more younger audience out there because I really think it's a dying art as far as comics. Not a lot of youth today, the new generation, they're more, I like video games. They're on YouTube. They're watching videos.
True.
I have a teenager, so I know exactly when he was younger, he liked doing the superhero thing, and then when he got older, it was just like, well, check out this comic book, and he's like, nah, it's okay, I'm good, and I'm just like, well, you can read, right? And he's like, yeah, I can read, and I'm like, okay, well, why don't you want to read a comic book? And he's just like, because it's just boring. And I was just like, what's boring about a comic? You're immersed in a world of something different, and you're reading what the author presents, in this in a comic, and I'm like, how can you not enjoy that? And he's just like, no, I'm all about YouTube.
Yeah, my 5-year-old's the same.
Yeah. So I would like to see a you know a comic book company that will want to bring in the younger. I know the older demographic is great and it's popular, and I just feel like we need a younger audience so they can appreciate the comics. So later on in life, they can say, "Okay, this was cool. I enjoyed it. Now I can see what other comics are as I get older."
So I know um, I, if you know Cami Garcia
Yeah.
has been doing a lot, and that's kind of been her focus has been the YA audience, um, which I know says young adult, but I know that's more of a younger, you know, a younger target market. Uh, Howdy, Gaz.
There you go, guys. Yeah.
But and so and she, of course, Cammy's a wonderful writer as well, and you know she's her Teen Titans stories have been great, and I know she just put out a new uh, YA, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but she's been posting about that.
Okay.
Um, but no, she's one of them that actually is doing targeting towards younger audiences, and doing a great job with it.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show this teaser trailer one more time, just for the people that kind of missed it. Give them a little preview.
All right.
Hey, yeah, you. Let me tell you about my grandson. That's him right there. No, no, not that guy. This guy. Name's Vasilis. Great kid. I basically took over running the family restaurant after I got sick. And there he is helping his Yaya Helena pack up the attic well, after I passed on. You see that amulet there? The one Vasilis just found? Helena and I brought that back from Greece after our honeymoon. It had been in her family for ages, but she insisted that we keep it hidden. I never knew why, but she was determined, so up to the attic it went. After a while, well, we just forgot about it. Clearly, it did not forget about our family. Now that Vasilis has it, well, it couldn't have chosen anyone better. I just hope he's ready for what's coming.
Every time I see that, it just makes me so excited. It wants me to go out and buy more comics. I
Do
mean,
it. There's nothing wrong with buying comics. It's never the wrong answer.
it's just an incredible teaser trailer. And will you be dropping more trailers?
I'm not planning to. We're about a month out, so a little bit more than a month before we hit the Kickstarter. So right now, I'm probably gonna get up some, uh, put together some promotional graphics. I've got a QR code for people who prefer those that I'll put up on various social media and try and get some pre-orders or not pre-orders, but some pre-launch followers up there.
Mhm.
Um, and we'll have some more. Uh, I do a monthly newsletter, and I try and put some new art in the newsletter every month. So if you want to see a little bit more of a preview, um, I'll have one more preview at the end of February uh, before the actual launch. But right
I,
now, we're looking good. I think we're going to have all the pages drawn and inked probably by the time we launch. We're going to be, if not, we're going to be real close. And we might just have some coloring and final lettering to do, but I expect the whole thing to be done probably before the campaign closes.
Here I have a question. I backed a Kickstarter back in of last year, and this Kickstarter was really really cool. It was called Justice. I don't know if you're aware of that one.
I don't think I got that one. No.
Well, the thing is, well, not last year. I would say 2023. I was actually backed, and I waited for a long time. And I was like, when is this going to come out? Because you guys said it was going to come out within 6 months after the Kickstarter ended. And they're like, oh, we had problems, we had this. And then I reached out to the creator and he gave me this negative email. He goes, well, if you don't want to back us anymore, I could just refund you. And I'm just like, no, I backed you because I liked what you were going to be putting out. I'm just wondering what's the delay, and you haven't given us any updates
Yeah.
for a long time. And I think with Kickstarters, I think that's what people get rubbed the wrong way is like when some of these, and not all, I'm not going to make it real clear, not all Kickstarter comics are like this, creators. There are some people who just want to put out a comic book out there on Kickstarter so they can get people the revenue in. But my thing is for the true people like yourself who want to put out a great comic and do it on a timely thing, don't treat your backers badly because then they're not going to want to back you again.
And they're not going to, and it only takes, like you said, the one time for people to get turned off of the whole process. And that's, look, the with Heroes and Zeros, it
Hmm.
took us a couple of months before after the Kickstarter, but we keep people updated.
Yeah.
Anything that goes on, we're going to keep you updated on. Um, and that's one of the reasons I did want to have this book almost done before we launched it, because that gives people some confidence that, hey, this is going to happen. We're not going to get burned on it. Look, I backed, oh God, I'm closing in on 200 campaigns that I backed
Mm.
over the last several years.
Yeah.
Um, I've not got burned once. Everything I've backed either has been provided, or I still get the updates of, hey, this was the snag we hit. We're working through it. We're sorry it's later than expected, but it's still coming. Here you go. And as long as you keep people updated, most people aren't going to get too upset. So that's my commitment on it. Is I'm going to keep people where we are in the process. I'm going to let you know if we're behind on something, if there's a problem with the printer, whatever it happens to be. You'll always know, and you can always reach out to me.
Yeah.
But I've had great luck with it. I think it's a fantastic platform because it does give people a chance to get these stories out that wouldn't see the light of day otherwise.
Yeah, I just don't want people to be turned off by one or a few bad Kickstarters, because if he would have just said, hey, we had a problem, um, the guy that was doing the inking um, did it all wrong, and we had to go back and get a new, colorist.
Right.
I would have been fine with that. But when you tell me that you want to refund my offering to you, my hard-earned money, and that offends me, and makes me not want to back you again. And I haven't gone back to that guy. I'm not going to even mention who he is,
No,
but
no, but that's exactly it, and that's sort of my approach to it. Is, hey, if I do get one like that,
yeah,
because I've had enough great experiences, and I've discovered some phenomenal creators and some great comics through Kickstarter.
yeah,
Um, and so I'm not going to be turned off of the process. But yeah, if I get burned by somebody, I'm not going back to them.
no, no.
And I don't want to be that guy that burns somebody. So
And this guy had a big following too, and they had put out probably 10 other Kickstarters,
oh wow,
and I was just like, "Here's your history. It's pretty good, but then you come to this one, and you're just like not updating people. You're not telling anybody, and it's not like I was messaging him all the time. I messaged him
right,
like every few months, and I'd be like, "Hey, what's going on?" You know,
right,
and that's legitimate concern for people because you're you're paying the creator
yeah.
the money to fund this project, and if you're not willing to keep us updated, then why am I backing you?
No,
You know?
every single person out there that backs this project, man, you're helping us bring this to life.
Yeah,
You're helping us bring our dream to life,
yeah,
and we're excited for everyone that wants to read it, that wants to support it. And like I say, I can't promise there won't be missteps, but I'm going to do my absolute best to avoid them. And you're always going to get transparency with where we are in the process.
I think I'm excited about this. I want to back it when I have the opportunity. When it comes online, I'm definitely going to back it. I mean,
I love to hear it, and I hope the people watching. I hope we've convinced you all too.
yeah, and I think Gaz said, "Oh, this is Bowler. Sorry, Bowler Retro Gamer. Hey, man."
Hey, Bowler.
And then Gaz says, "That was pretty cool."
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I
I
think it
hope
was.
everybody liked my voiceover work.
Oh yeah, and I was going to mention that. I was like, "Who did the thing?" I knew, but maybe not too many people knew. Gaz does have a question. Let's see. I think we shouldn't forget that Kickstarters are mostly people that are working full time jobs and other responsibilities outside of the Kickstarter, but that's no excuse not to keep backers updated.
That's absolutely right. And I say
It's true,
there's a
guys.
handful of people, and one Jimmy Palmiotti comes to mind that he's basically just said, "Forget the big guys. We're gonna do all our stuff, and we're gonna publish it this way." And he's sort of the godfather of comics on Kickstarter in that way. Um, but but that being said, no, you got to keep people updated. If you're going to do this, if I'm going to make this commitment and you're going to make the commitment to me, we're gonna talk about things. I'm going to let you know where it's at.
It's the same thing with my friend Chad. He backed a figure Robo Skull
Okay.
Kickstarter, and he did not get his thing until recently, and it took 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Why didn't you just cancel?" And he goes, "I thought about it, but he goes, I really wanted it." And then when it finally came out, it looked great, and he showed it on his YouTube channel, which is down below in my links. I'm gonna have to put yours on there as well. I didn't put the Acorn link on. Well, I put the links in the description, but do you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think it's Acorn Comics 19.
Okay, I'm gonna have to put that on my
Yeah.
recommended
And
list.
that's, again, I'm not doing anything like what you're doing. I'm doing
Yeah,
mostly those weekly 2 minute. I just started doing the videos this year, but other than those 2 minute videos promoting other people's Kickstarters, and that's something, by the way, most of the time they have no idea I'm doing it. It's just these are ones that look cool to me, and I
yeah,
want to get it out there.
yeah,
And it's that, and it's the trailers and things like that I put out. So
yeah,
it's not much, but it's at least there for people to watch.
yeah. If anybody has any questions, I don't want to keep Paul too long because I know you're probably very busy. I have a very busy schedule and family life.
Life is always busy, but I'm glad to get the chance to come in here and chat and
Yeah,
yeah.
but I want to say it's your Kickstarter is going to be awesome. I think a lot of people are going to back it up. I've had already sent out a lot of to my friends and let them know about this comic book coming out, and I told them you got to check it because if you like indie comics, then you're going to love this particular one. And I think you did a wonderful job, and you got some really good artists and colorists and letterists, and it's something different.
Well, thank you. That's the goal, and let's get this story out there. And like I say, I hope everybody will support it and spread the word. That's we got to get the word of mouth out there.
So, and we're going to be coming close to the end of this stream. What do you want to promote besides the Kickstarter website, social media?
So as far as promotion, you can find me on Bluesky, and I think my handle there is my old the professional one. It's the EZA ESQ. So my last name, lawyer. Um, and then I'm still on Threads, Instagram, Facebook, all under Acorn Comics. You can find us there. acorncomics.com. You can see all our stuff. You can actually buy the stock we have from the previous Kickstarter. And when we have additional things to sell, we're going to go ahead and put that up there too. But besides that, like, go check out some of these the videos I'm doing for other people's Kickstarters. Go support them. Go support the work that our collaborators are doing with Dee and Casey and Reed. Reed's got a Kickstarter coming up as well that I'm gonna, once that goes live, I'm gonna promote that one too. And just everybody out there that we've worked with has been phenomenal. They're great creators. They're great people. Go give them some support.
And Gaz says here the comic book looks pretty cool. I wish the best of luck with it, Paul.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So we're going to end the stream here. I want to thank you, Paul, for coming on and sharing your Kickstarter with us. I appreciate you coming on Comic Book Spotlight. It's a pleasure to have you here. Um, I'm just going to roll some credits, and I will see you in the back studio. All right.
All right. Hey, thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Thanks to everybody watching. Hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.